Hello, hello. My name is Luisela Sugalski. I'm the job coach here at NSC, and I'm also a member of the Department of Employment Services. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for watching. The title of today's topic is Mini Job Club Session, and what that is about. I'm pretty sure you guys are asking to yourselves. So today's topic. Um, you are going to be able to understand a little bit more about what the US work culture is about and also how to be successful in the workplace. Okay, so let's start. So first, I want to talk a little bit about how important it is for us as immigrants to learn English, which is, as you guys know, is the first language here in United States. So to earn money, obviously, is important. If we are able to learn the language, so that means that we're going to be able to apply for the jobs, and those for the jobs are going to bring us more money and better or great benefits, right? And being in, they're going to allow us also to work for better companies, right? If we want to continue with our education, whatever the highest level of education you guys have, um, so you need to know the language, right? Because the classes are going to be in English. Okay, so that's also very important. So if we want to help our family, let's say we have children and these children got to go to school, and you need to be able to communicate with the teachers and the administrative staff. So in order for you to do that, so you really need to speak the language so you can communicate with them and you know what's going on, and being able to also help your children, if that is your case, to do the homework and etc. And of course meet new people, right? So if we know more languages, so we're going to be able to communicate with more people, right? Work experience is if we learn the language, so we're going to be able to gain more work experience, and this work experience obviously is going to help us to advance in our career, whatever that path you want to follow, right? So we also have another reasons, and is to get the citizenship. So if you want to become a citizen, I don't know if you guys know. I know a lot of people don't know about this, but a lot of people here in the United States are not able to become US citizens just because the language barrier. Unfortunately, in this country, if you want to become a citizen, you must speak the language, because there is oral exam, and that exam is going to be in English 100%. So, and there's no option to have an interpreter or anything like that, which I know it happens in other cases. So now you know that that's very important if you didn't know. Okay, so if you want to go to the doctor, or even for some reason, I hope it doesn't happen to any of you, but if for some reason you gotta go to the emergency room, to the ER, so by speaking the language, you are going to be able to talk to the doctors and the nurses, and all the people who work there. Okay. um, like I said before, you can help your children or maybe family members in case you don't have children, but uh, you have sisters or brothers who go to school, right? And also to gain computer skills. A lot of people, clients that we serve at NSC, they don't, because they don't know the language, so they're not able to learn how to use a computer. Okay. Um, and and which is obviously not the best situation, because nowadays is to learn and get computer skills is very important, is as much as it is to speak English, okay, in this country. So let's move to the next point. So, in case you guys didn't know, it's important to understand, like, whatever our academic background and or professional background is, when we first move, we leave our countries and we first move to this country, there's like common first jobs that we are going to end up doing. In other words, we're not gonna be able pretty much to get the dream job and start working that dream job, or maybe start working in the company you guys wanted, or maybe get the job that you used to have in your home country. So for example, I would like to share with you, when I was in my country, I used to work in as a human resources professional. When I moved to this country, for reasons that I'm actually mentioning right now, I was not able to get a job in, as an HR professional here in this country. So different jobs we're gonna end up doing, and they're gonna be, and they're called common first jobs. I can name a few: factory, housekeeping, retail, food or restaurant industry, home health aid. Home health aid are the people who are responsible of taking care of the elderly, or people with some type of disability. Or a lot of us are going to end up working in the construction industry. That's actually part of my work experience here in the United States, is in the construction industry, believe it or not. So let's move on with next. So now we're going to start talking about the US job cycle. So what is the US job cycle? Is the job cycle is a cycle. So this cycle has a group of stages or phases that we have to follow in order for us to get a job. Don't think that this job cycle only applies for immigrants like us. No, this cycle applies for everybody. Americans, not Americans, everybody. It can change, yeah, a little bit. It can have less or more steps, and that's not going to depend on us. It's going to actually depend on the company and in the hiring process of the company in particular. Okay, so I want to start talking about finding job openings, which is the first step. So how can I apply for a job in the US? So there's three different ways to apply for a job here in the US. So one is in person. When it's in person, you are able to submit a paper application. Okay, so how that happens? So, for example, I'm walking in an avenue, and there's different stores. In these stores, it's very common to see signs. The signs that I'm actually showing right now through the PowerPoint presentation, and those signs are gonna say exactly that: help wanted, now hiring. Obviously, they're not gonna give you too much, too many details about the position they're looking to fill in that moment, or how much they're paying, or the activities and tasks, responsibilities related to it. So in that case, we have to go into the store and ask for more clarification, more information. And of course, if we want to apply, so we will ask for that paper application. We'll have to fill it out, and after fill that application out, we can give it to the person who is in charge. Okay. The other way to apply for jobs here in United States is via email. So sometimes employers, they don't want you to fill out an online application or a paper application. They want you to send an email to them. And when that happens, they are going to ask you for your resume and sometimes for your cover letter. Okay. We're gonna be talking about what is a resume, what is a cover letter later on. So stay tuned. The third way to apply for a job is online. So how you do it? Well, you go there's a group, very big group, I would say nowadays, of websites that they're called employment websites, where you go to those websites and you can do searching, search the jobs you're looking for or the job you're looking for, and how in the type of job you're looking for, and how much they offer, and it's gonna give you the information of the job description of the job, and etc etc etc. So depending on what is the job that we want, so we're gonna be able to apply and for that job in particular and submit the online application. Okay, so that's pretty much the way it works. If you ask me, depending on the industry, um, there's industries where they're more focused on posting the jobs online, and they expect that people, fill out the online job application, and that's pretty much how they start the the cycle, and later on decide who is going to get hired and who is not. However, I still think there's other industries where they still want you to fill out that paper application and give it to them. So that's pretty much the way it works. Now, I would like to talk a little bit about networking or professional networking. So, what is networking? Networking is meeting new contacts or meeting new people and sharing information with these people, okay, about you or the things you do. Okay, so networking is a im- im- very powerful way to get a job here in the United States. Okay, uh, in United States is very professional networking is very important. Actually, there's organizations that are focused and dedicated uh, to kind of organize clubs, and so people can in events, so can people go to those events and do networking. Okay, so one of the basic questions that we should ask to ourselves about who is in my network, uh, well, is actually more simple than you actually think. Um, People who are in your network and in my network are friends, are family, community members, and coworkers. So those are my contacts, okay? And those are the people who can help me to get a job. Actually, I know this person. This person told me that the job that she has right now was because one of her ex-coworkers. So this ex-coworker was working for this company, and that person found out that that company had a job opening, and that job opening was a very job opportunity for her friend. So she told to her friend about this job opening and send her all the information. She decided to apply, and this ex co-worker talked to the HR person in that company and referred her. After that, she went to the job interview, and she did a very good job at the interview. Plus, the referral that she had from this ex coworker slash friend, she got the job, and that's the job that she has right now. So that's actually one of many, many, many examples we can hear about. In It's kind of like real proof of how can we get jobs here in the United States. So keep that in mind, okay? So why network? So why is it so important? So I was talking about that just now. So there's different reasons. If we want to expand our circle, if we want to grow our community, if we want to ask for advice and create connections or get new ideas, discover new job opportunities. So these are like a group of reasons why it's so important to do networking. If you think about it, platforms like Facebook in in Instagram, they are very powerful platforms to do networking. Like nowadays, you can if you look the information, a lot of information that get posted through Facebook and Instagram is people doing networking all the time, and there's actually people who make money just by doing that, by doing networking. So I would say that's another big example of how powerful networking is in United States and also in other countries, I'm sure. So now let's talk about applying for jobs. So the first question is like, what do I need? What are the type of documents do I need to apply for a job? So we have two options. The first option is going to be we need to have our state ID, since we live in Pennsylvania, so it's going to be the Pennsylvania ID or the driver license, the Pennsylvania driver's license. And we also have to present the Social Security card. So that's the first option. The second option is our employment authorization document. A lot of people know this as working permit, okay? So if you go with number two, because you have it, so you will need to show to your new employer your ID or your Social Security card. So that means like it's gonna be or one or two, okay? When you are a U.S. citizen, so the U.S. citizens, they normally show their U.S. passport. So that's more than enough for them to prove like they are eligible to work in their legal to work here in the United States, okay? So let's talk about skills. So what is a skill? A skill are all the things that you know how to do. Example, I know how to work with a computer. I do know how to bike. I know how to cook. I know how to work with Excel. So those are skills. So skills, in other words, is things that we have learned and now we know how to do. Okay? So skill is very different from a preference. What is a preference? Preferences are all the things that you like to do or the things you want to learn. So I do want to learn how to, how to speak French. I do not speak French. So that would be a preference, not a skill, right? Because I don't know it. So once I learn how to speak French, so that will become a skill, okay? The reason why it is important to, and I wanted to mention what is a skill and what is a preference, is because all the skills that we know need to be added in a resume. And why is it so important to have a resume here in the United States? Well, pretty much if you don't have a resume in the United States, you're not gonna be able to apply to any job, okay? Or I'm not gonna say to any job, but most of the jobs are gonna require you to get a resume, okay? So what is the purpose or the main purpose of a resume? To get, well, first to apply for a job, and at the same time, after you apply for jobs, it's gonna help you to get a job interview, okay? And what is a resume? A resume tells employers who you are, and what skills you have. There is a group of elements that are that they need to be or are part of their resume in order for the resume to be a resume. And those elements are contact information, work history, the education or academic background, skills, and references. References, not necessarily nowadays. So most of the time, the references, employers are going to ask for them after the job interview if they are serious about wanting to hire you. Okay, so references, honestly, like I don't, it's something more optional. Okay, they mandatory in on a resume. Okay, so the point is here, what is the information that needs to be in a US resume is the contact information, work history, education, and skills. Okay, and then sometimes, and once again, depending on the industry, but also depending on the job we are going to apply, the employers ask for a cover letter. So they're going to ask for the resume plus the cover letter. So what is a cover letter? The cover letter explains the type of position you are seeking, how qualified you are for the position, and why your experience and skills are relevant to that job. So the cover letter, it really is a letter that you write to your employer, and it's kind of like the letter where you want to convince your that potential employer that you are the perfect person to work in that position. Okay, so it's kind of like you want to convince this potential employer uh, about how good you can be in that position if the employer hires you. Okay, let's talk about work schedule in the United States. So the most common ones are gonna be full-time and part-time. Okay, so those are pretty much the most common jobs we are gonna find. And it doesn't matter what kind of jobs we're talking about or what industry we're gonna end up working. But the most common work schedules are gonna be full-time or part-time. Full-time means that you are gonna be working at least 35 hours a week, at least 35 hours. The most common is going to be 40 hours, okay, a week. And then part-time, you are perceived as a part-timer when you work less than 35 hours every week, okay? When it comes to meal or break time, the law says, and this is a fair law, okay? Employers are not required to provide breaks to employees who are 18 years old or over. If an employer provides a break that is 20 minutes or less, it must be paid. So if you get a break and that break is 20 minutes or less than 20, so by law, the employer needs to pay you, must pay you those 20 minutes. If it's more than 20 minutes and you are 18 years old, older than 18, so the federal law doesn't obligate the employer to pay for this meal or break time. Okay. Um, let's talk about overtime. So overtime is a pay increase of 1.5 by the regular wage after 40 hours worked in 1 week. So what this means is, so let's say that I have a job and this job pays me $10 per hour. Okay. So if during 1 week I ended up working more than 40 hours, so the 40, I ended up working, let's say, 45 hours. So I worked more than 40. I worked a total of an additional 5 hours. So in that case, those 5 hours extra that I worked, so they need to pay those 5 hours extra overtime. And in that case, I will have to know how much they're gonna pay me every those 5 hours in total. So I will have to multiply. So $10, which is what they pay me regularly every hour, by 1.5. So that means $15, $15 is what they're gonna pay me for every hour extra. Okay, so that's what it is over time. Something important that I want you to keep in mind, and a lot of people I have noticed during job club that they get confused, is what if I have to work during a holiday? Those 8 hours or whatever the amount of hours I have to work on a holiday, they're gonna pay me those hours overtime? The answer is no. The point of paying overtime is only when you work more than 40. So it doesn't matter if it's during a holiday or not. The point is that the employer is obligated to pay you if that overtime if you work more than 40. Okay, whether that fell on a holiday or normal day. Okay, then we have exempt employees and non-exempt employees. So what is an exempt employee? All exempt employees, those are the ones who earn a salary and they are not required to receive overtime. So the best example is me. I am an exempt employee. Why? Because whether I work more than 40 hours a week, the company is not gonna pay me overtime. There's a salary that they pay me whether I work 40 or I work 42 or I work 40 hours in a week. And they normally the employer, they tell you that way before they hire you. Sometimes, even when you're looking for jobs online, and you read the job description is even gonna say that if that position is gonna be exempt or non-exempt. Okay, so what is a non-exempt employee? So those ones are the ones who are paid by the hour. And a lot of people call the non-exempt employees the hourly people. So the hourly, those are, or the non-exempt employees, they are the ones who have the right to get the overtime pay. Okay, so that's pretty much the difference between being an exempt employee, non-exempt employee. I know a lot of people who prefer to be non-exempt employee or hourly. I guess you will understand why they will prefer that, right? So because they know if they work more than 40, so they're gonna end up making more money by the end of the month, right? Let's talk about time off and employee benefits. So time off and employee benefits, we can name parental, vacation, and sick leave. So those are time off that are offered by the employer, and they can be paid or they can be not paid. Okay, so for example, parental. So parental time off is after the birth of a new child, or if you adopt a child, that also falls in parental time off. Okay. Something that is important to know is that employers, by law, once again, by law, employers are not required to provide vacation and sick benefits. So that means that if a company wants to offer to you, it's because the company wants to do it, because wants to attract more people to work for them, or they want to attract like more and better talent. Okay. The point is, like, by law, the federal government says no, um, you're not obligated to offer that. However, there is a federal law that is related to sick time. It's called sick leave. In the name of this law is FMLA. Okay, so FMLA means Family and Medical Leave of Absence. So is is a leave that an employee can take, uh, and the maximum that you can take is 12 weeks. So you can be off from work up to 12 weeks. However, they're not going to be paid. The biggest benefit about this federal law is that it provides you with job security, meaning that once you go back to your work and go back to your position, the employer is not going to fire you. Okay, so that's very important uh, about this law. The situations where the employee uh, can actually use this type of sick leave is when the employee, if it's a female, she's pregnant, in, she has a baby, um, or if she or the parents are going to adopt a new child, or if there's like a serious illness, like example, like the employee has a very serious illness, or the spouse, or the mother, or the father, or one of the children, or if it's one child, is the child is seriously sick. Okay, so it applies for very serious sickness, okay, or illness. If your employer offers paid leave, these benefits will be listed in your offer letter. Sometimes, once again, it depends on the company. When we're looking for jobs online, a lot of times you're gonna be able to read the job description, and at the bottom, like just right after reading the job description, the company will kind of like name or explain the benefits that they offer. So not necessarily you're gonna know about the benefits. If they offer benefits, you're gonna know when you get the job offer. Okay. Most probably thing is gonna be before. It's gonna happen before. Now let's talk about something very important. This is a very important phase, and is interviews. So, what is a job interview? That's the first thing we should talk about, right? So, what is a job interview? It's a meeting between you and the employer, when the employer will ask you questions to see if you are a good fit for the job. You may also ask the employer questions to see if the job is right for you. This part is, I think, is very important. And when I first read about this, I was like, I kind of like got curious. I did At first I didn't know that part of the U.S. work culture is very common to ask questions to the person who is interviewing you, to the interviewer or the hiring manager. So it's very common. Uh, it's not only very common, but the interviewer here in the United States, they expect that you ask questions by the end of the interview. So after they ask you all the questions they want to ask you, they're gonna say, "Do you have any questions for me, Luisela?" And you will have to say yes. And at least what I recommend, and a lot of people recommend, is to ask at least 3 questions. I don't want to go too deep about that, because I'm gonna be making videos uh, later on about that, and that's gonna be like the best moment for me to talk uh, more about the type of questions you should ask. Okay, but let's talk a little bit about the common interview questions. These questions are the most common ones, and it's no matter, and it doesn't matter like the jobs you are applying. Most of the time, you're gonna get asked these type of questions. Okay, so one is tell me about yourself. So tell me about yourself is pretty much like the first and most popular question, I would say, or in my opinion, that you're gonna hear during a job interview. Okay. Then we have why are you interested in this position? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Why do you want to work for this company? And why did you leave your last job? So those are pretty much the most common questions that we're gonna get asked during a job interview here in the United States. Okay. Now let's talk about tips that are very important to keep in mind, and not only to keep in mind, but also to put them in practice. Okay, so tips before the interview. Please print copies of your resume and bring those copies to you with you to the job interview. You need to practice answering the questions. Turn off the cell phone. Plan a professional outfit, take a shower, brush your teeth, comb your hair, make sure you look very good and professional. Make sure you know how to get there, right? Because we don't want to get lost. So it's important to know before the date of the interview we're gonna go and how we can get there, right? Um, Most of the HR professionals here in the United States, they say arriving early is very important. So most of the time, they recommend between 15 and 20 minutes early. So let's say if the job interview is at 2 o'clock, so you should be there at least at 1:45. So between 1:40, 1:45. Okay. Um, you gotta get information about the company. You need to read about the company is going to interview you that day. Okay, so do some research. Go to the website. If they have a Facebook page or a LinkedIn page or even Instagram, go dig it and read about it. Okay, you need to be informed about what the company does. I mean, obviously, you're not going to memorize all what they do and the products or service they offer, but you need to have an understanding of what the company does and the mission, the values, the principles. Okay, during the interview, you need to create your own interviewer. You have to smile. You need to have a firm but gentle handshake. That's very important. You need to keep eye contact all the time. They like that a lot. Uh, Pay attention to the body language. Ask questions. Speak clearly and confidently. So ask questions, that means like, let's say they asked you a question, you didn't understand the question, so ask to the interviewer to repeat the question. It's better to say, can you please repeat the question because I'm not sure I understood what you're trying to ask me. It's better to ask again, ask for repetition, then answer something that doesn't have anything to do with what they're asking you. It happened to me. I made that mistake. It's one of the common mistakes. So that's important to keep in mind. After the job interview, what things we should do? Um, we need to always say thank you to the interviewer. Actually, that is something that we need to do when at the beginning of the interview and by the end of the interview. Okay. Always ask about the next steps. So that means like when you're gonna the job interview is about to get done, you always want to ask like, oh, I would like to know what the next steps are in the process. So what should I expect after the job interview? And they normally, even sometimes, even if they don't, if you don't ask, they will tell you beforehand. So, but if they don't, the point is like if they don't provide the information, so it's important ask a question because you want to know, right? What to expect. Always send a follow-up email. That email is always very important. It's called thank you letter. So just right after the job interview, within the 24, no more than 48 hours, we should be sending an email, say thank you so much for the opportunity, thanks so much for the opportunity to go and get this job interview. I just want to know, I'm very interested in X position with your company. Looking forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks, Luisela Sugalski. So more words, less words, but they always expect that type of thing. Okay. And then you have to continue applying for jobs. You don't know if you're gonna get selected to the job or not, so it's better to keep looking, okay? And looking and applying, okay? Then let's say the job offer arrives. So between and I want to say this, so between the job interview and in the job offer, most probably thing, depending, once again, depending on the company, how the rules are when it comes to the hiring process, some of them are going to ask about after the job interview to provide with 3 professional references. Okay, so that's very important. Uh, we have clients at NSC who we help to get their very first job in United States. So in that case, they're not able, like they don't have professional references to provide. So in that case, the job developers or the case manager or me as a job coach, we are gonna be the professional references, okay, that you are going to use in provide. If only, once again, applies if the employer asks for it. And if they are going to ask for it, it's going to happen after the job interview. So if they ask if you go to a job interview and after that, they send you an email or they called you and asked you for to provide 3 professional references, which is actually the common number. That means that's a good thing. That's a good sign. That means that they are interested in you. Okay. Sometimes after the professional references, if they check, they run a background check or a drug test. So once again, it depends on the company rules and how the hiring process of the company works. Okay. After that, we're gonna get a job offer. Most of the time, based on my experience, you're gonna get the job offer by phone, and then you're gonna get an email. Okay. Sometimes it's only gonna be by phone, and that's it. And they want you to answer in that moment. Or, but most of the time, I see over the phone, and after talking to you over the phone, so they send you an email with the job, with the offer letter. So that's how they call it here, offer letter. And there's important information this offer letter contains. And what is it? Job title, wage, work hours, start date, benefits, if they offer benefits. So this is going to explain you the benefits. And when you, as a new hire or new employee, you are going to start enjoying these benefits and the duration of employment. Okay, so the duration of employment, why? Because sometimes there's only like 6-month contract or 1-year contract, or it can be a 2-year contract. So if that's the case, they will add that information. If you're going to be like a regular employee, where you are going to be a part-time employee or a full-time employee, so they obviously they're not going to add that, right? After reading that job offer letter, if it has all that information and the information is correct and it goes and is aligned with what they told you before, so it's perfect. You can sign it and send it back. So that's what happens most of the time when they send it to you by email. You're gonna read, and they're gonna ask you to read it, and if you agree to it, so you have to print it, sign it, and scan it, and email it back to them. So that's like the proof for you and for them that you have agreed. So remember, a job offer letter is pretty much a contract. It's the contract between you as a new employee or new hire and your new employer. Okay. If there is something wrong, um, or something they didn't include, or they actually included something that they didn't tell you, and that doesn't have, is not related, or it doesn't make sense to previous conversations and things you agreed before, so do not sign it. Okay, that's very, very important. Remember, once again, the job offer letter is a contract. Once you sign it, you cannot go back. Okay, so it's better to ask questions and for clarifications if you're not sure about something. Okay, and then you can sign. Let's talk about onboarding process and start date. So during the onboarding process, things are going to happen. In the onboarding process is a process that is actually kind of like it's a phase where the employer provides information about the company and what the company is about, and like as a new employee, you're gonna get the opportunity to get more information about what the company does and how the company is, kind of like the personality of the company too, and the expectations that the company has about you, what they expect of you in that position, in the position they decided to hire you. So the onboarding process even starts before the start date. Okay, a lot of people, experts in the HR, in human resources, they even say like the onboarding process starts when you apply to a job to XX company. So one of the elements that are also involved during the onboarding process is the dress code. You want to know about what are the clothes you need to wear, what they allow for you to wear. You're going to be able to meet your new work team. You're going to learn about your, once again, about your start date and what are the things or documents you're supposed to bring with you on that first date. Most of the time, or the most common documents are, the documents who prove that you are legal and you are eligible to work in the US, the documents that we talked before. Okay. And those are the documents. The documents are also called new hire paperwork. So by the way, just to clarify with you guys, so new hire means new employee. A lot of people who works in departments in the departments of human resources in companies here in the US, they don't call it new employees. They call it new hire. They can that is also a moment where a lot of companies ask you for a background check or a drug screening. And just to clarify what is a background check, in case you guys don't know, so a background check is where they ask for your information, and they information, meaning like your name, your your number, social security, home address, phone number. So with that information, they send that information to the police department, wherever you live. Since we live, for example, I live in Philadelphia, so they're gonna send my information to the police department of Philadelphia. So they pretty much wanna make sure that you haven't committed any crime or any felony. That, in other words, that you haven't done anything bad to anybody since you live here. So that is the background check. And if everything is good, they call it, oh, that person is clean. Okay, in that person is clear to go. Clear to go meaning like to continue. In the drug screening, well, depending on the company, once again, depending on the position the person's gonna be working, they require you to do a drug screen or a drug test because they want to make sure that people don't do drugs because that might affect the job they do. I can give you like a very easy example. Paper companies where they have big machines, and these machines work because there are machine operators. So these people who work as machine operators, they cannot have any influence, whether you call it whether it's drug, any type of drug, or uh, alcohol. So that would be like a good example in what cases employers are willing to pay for a drug screening or a drug test. Okay. Most of the time, the background check and the drug test, the employer is gonna pay for it. Okay. What are the forms we're gonna be signing during the onboarding process? And most of the time we're gonna sign them. It can happen before our first day at work, or it can also happen this on during the first day at work. The first one is gonna be the I-9, the W-4, W-2. We're gonna see that one, not at the beginning. I'll explain you later. And but the employee handbook. Those are like the common forms that we're gonna see as employees in whatever company. Oh, okay. So yeah, before we move on, so yeah, so I want to clarify. So the I-9 form uh, is the form that employers use to verify that you are eligible, you are legal to work in the US. The W-4 is the form that the IRS ask the employer to give to the new employees. And they need to fill it out because mm, through that form, they're going to be able to deduct the taxes that you need to pay. Okay. Then the W-2, W-2, you need to get that if you're working for a company. So in January uh, of every year, your company or your employer needs to give to you, whether it's on a paper version or online version, the W-2 form. And the W-2 form is gonna be, it's gonna show your full name, the name of the company, your job title, but the most important part is that it's gonna say how much they paid you total the year before. So maybe if you work for that company the year before 8 months, and during those 8 months, they paid you a total of $15,000, for example. So it's going to show that. So it's going to show that they paid you $15,000. And out of those $15,000, you paid X amount of money in taxes. Okay. And that form is super, super important to have it, because that's the form that you need to have in order for you to file for taxes every year. Okay. Then the employee handbook. Uh, not all the companies, but a lot of companies decide to create a handbook just because it's kind of like the Bible of the company. That means that it contains information like what is the company, what the mission, values, principles are, but also like what the work schedules are, the dress code, laws, rules, policies they follow in companies, and the employees of the company need to follow. So uh, by law, the employee handbook they they don't, the law doesn't require or doesn't obligate the employers to have a handbook. However, the law says, or the federal law says, that if the company or the employer decides to write and have an employee handbook, so they must follow the rules and the policies that have written there. Okay, so most of the time, well, not most of the time, for the companies who have an employee handbook, they, when you start working for that company, they must give it to you, a copy of that handbook, and they also give you like a separate sheet, um, which is like the consent, where it says that, yeah, I confirm that the employer uh, has given me the employee handbook. I have a copy of it, so you have to sign it and give it to them. Okay, and that's a proof they have that, you know, that shows like they gave you a copy. Okay, something very important too, like information about vacation time, um, or sick leave, whatever, pay time off, or if it's pay or not, whatever benefit the company offers to the employees. So that information is, you can find it there. Okay. Um, so we're getting close to the end. Let's talk about first paycheck and financial literacy. So pay stub. So that's the way it's gonna look, your pay stub, once you start working, if you haven't. Um, so that's the way it looks. Information that the pay stub is gonna have, it's gonna be your social security, your federal tax, state tax, Medicare, year to date, gross, deductions, the net pay. So that's a type of information. The pay period, pay date. So we're supposed to get the pay stub every time we get paid. Okay. Um, Something important that you need to ask your case manager to help you set up a checking account with a bank. When you start working, you can set up a direct deposit to have your paycheck automatically sent to your checking account. So this is important, um, because at first, we the way we're gonna get paid is gonna be by check. So mostly medium in big companies, they like to send you the money, like transfer you the money online. So in order for you to not get a check and deposit the check or cash the check, you need to have a bank account, a checking bank account. So with the checking bank account, you can provide the information of the bank account to your employer. And with that information, so that the employer is going to be able to send you your salary. Every time they pay you, they will send you the salary directly to your bank account. Okay, so which is very convenient. So in case you guys start working and don't have a bank account yet and want to have a direct deposit, so now you know that you have to have a bank account. Okay, and the case manager can help you with that. Okay. Then taxes. I want to talk briefly about taxes. So taxes are deducted from your paycheck. Um, in that money that they you get deducted every time the employer pays you, that money, they take it, the government take it to pay for different things. uh, Good examples: roads, to Medicaid, health benefits, public education, and other services. So that's pretty much what the government does with the money that we pay on taxes. Any person that is authorized, who is authorized to work in United States, must complete a tax return. And that's something that we have to do every year. If you do not file a tax return, you may receive a letter in the mail from the IRS stating that you owe money to the US government. Okay. Tax returns are due before April 15th every year. Okay. So we have a deadline, um, you know, to file and send our tax returns. Okay. Vida Center. So Vida Center is a non-profit organization here in Philadelphia. They have a group of locations, you know, they're in different parts of the city. And the good thing is like they provide free tax preparation services. So a lot of our NSC clients, they go there every year so they can, so Vida people can help them to uh, file for their taxes and prepare their taxes. Um, Something important to know is like you can go there or but most of the time you will have to set up an appointment in order like for them to help you to prepare your taxes. Documents that you need to bring to Vida Center: state ID or driver license, or your employment document, your social security card, last year's tax return, if you have it. If this year is your first year, so it's different, right? It doesn't apply that. Your in statement for childcare expenses, if you have children, of course. 1098-T form for any college or trade school expenses paid, if that applies to you, of course. The employer identification number of the provider, W-2 and 1099 forms. The 1099 form only applies for those who work as independent contractors, okay? So if you work as an independent contractor, so your employer must give you a 1099, not a W-2, okay? 1095-A statement in total of expenses plus bills and receipts. For medicine and doctor's visits also as backup, and property tax if that applies if you own a house. Okay, if not, it doesn't apply. Tips for succeeding at work. So there's tips that I would like to provide to you. I know it's not easy to get a job in the United States. Uh, like I have talked, you know, during this hour, there's a lot of phases we gotta go through in order for us to get a job. But it's not only important to get the job, to apply for the job and then to get the job, but also to keep the job. I feel sometimes people talk a lot about how important is to understand how to apply for the job and how to be successful in a job interview. But hey, things don't end once you get the job, because that's, to me, that's kind of like, okay, I got the job, so I can close this chapter, and now a new chapter for me is going to start. And that new chapter is how I keep my job and how can I adapt easily and I can be successful uh, at my workplace. Okay, so that's why I kind of like want to give you some general tips for you guys to keep in mind. So basic stuff. This is like very, very basic. You need to have good hygiene. Wash your hands, wash your clothes, make sure to wash your body once a day, brush your teeth. Um, those like are very basic tips, okay? That I want you to keep in mind, okay? And don't forget. Be on time. That's very, very important here in the United States. And it doesn't only apply uh, when you go to a job interview, it also applies when once you start working in that new company. You need to be on time. And also applies for whatever appointment you make, by the way. So you need to check the traffic. If you own a car, whether you own a car or you use public transportation, we have to check the traffic, okay? In before we leave, of course, because we don't want to be late. Talk to your supervisor if something happens, emergency happens, because that's how life is, that's how life works. um, if you have a if you're running late, if you don't think for something happening, you're not going to be able to be on time at work. So please, you need to let your supervisor know. Don't talk to a coworker, don't tell to the coworker, so that because you trust that person, so that person is going to call or text your supervisor. No, make sure you have your supervisor phone number, and call him or call her, text her or text him, and let them know what's going on, or emergency happens, so this is what is going on, I'm not going to be able to go today, or I'm not going to be able to be on time. But you always have to talk to the supervisor. If they don't know what's going on with you, so they're going to assume that you are not a professional person, that you are not responsible, and you don't take job seriously. Okay. If you need to make appointments, like with your doctor, try to do that, on your, during the days off you have, whatever they are. It depends, obviously, depend on the work schedule, right? So for example, my work schedule is nine to five. So in my case, I have to plan those doctor's visit after after 5, or before 9, or during the weekends, Saturdays, right? Keep your job at least for 6 months. And if you get a job and then you, for different reasons, you don't like it and you really don't want to stay there, but you want to add that professional experience on your resume. So the recommendation, I'm very serious with this, is to keep that job for at least 6 months. Do not leave before 6 months, unless like there's like very serious big problem that you think is it cannot be solved. There's no way that problem cannot be solved. If it really is that way, so that's different. But my recommendation, keep the job for at least 6 months, because that's the minimum amount here in the United States to put that job on your resume. Okay. If you plan to leave, you get a new job, and that's very important too. Whenever you decide to leave the job, like say you've been working at this company doing this job for the last 13 months, and you want to leave, so make sure to keep this job and look for a new job. So you got to do the two things at the same time. So keep working, because you still need to keep working, so you can make money, right, and pay for your bills and save if you're saving, and then look for jobs. Once you get this new job, so then you're gonna be able to leave this one. When you leave that one, it's not that you just gonna walk out the next day. You find out you have a new job. No, you have to let them know. And that is called in the United States 2-week notice. So you have to give your 2-week notice, and you need to write a letter of resignation. So the 2-week notice means like if you're telling your employer that you're leaving today, so you need to give them, you need to keep working for the next 2 weeks. And after those 2 weeks, so you want to leave. The reason why is two. One, because that means that the image that you are projecting to your current employer is that you're a professional and serious person. And that's why you want to communicate in the best way that you're leaving. But also during those 2 weeks, you're giving to your employer time to find a replacement for you. Okay, so that's pretty much the reasons why the 2 weeks notice exists here in the United States. And of course, you need to add your letter of resignation. Okay. Follow the company policies in the dress code. And like I said before, call your supervisor if you are going to be late or if you have any emergencies. Then 90-day probation. The 90-day probation is it starts when you start working in this new company. So there's companies who that the probation time is only 30 days, meaning 1 month. Sometimes it's only 2 months, but the most common is 90 days, meaning 3 months. During whatever the time is, the purpose is the same. So what is the purpose? So employers, during that time period of time, they evaluate if new employees can like how new employees work, right? And how they do their job. Employees receive during this time extra supervision, and it's also like a period of time where you have to learn more about your new position. This time is very sensitive because if you don't demonstrate the skills and if you don't demonstrate that you really are the person to do that job, so they can actually terminate your contract without notice. And this is not against the law. This is completely lawful. I mean, it's permitted in the United States. So once again, like I said before, looking for a job, obviously it's very important. Get the job, but keeping the job is as important as getting the job. In this time, called probation, is very sensitive. So be responsible, don't be late, have a good attitude, be positive, be willing to collaborate, show the person you are and the professional you are, and that applies to any job. Okay. After the probation period ends, employees normally they begin to enjoy their benefits. Once again, that is not a rule. It depends on the company. Some companies they say, oh, starting from day first, the new employees are gonna enjoy the first their benefits. So make sure to be aware that some companies they do uh, they provide these benefits after the probation time. Okay. The last part in our last section, I'm gonna be talking about today is gonna be or is workers' rights. So something important to know: minimum wage. So the minimum wage in the United States is $7.25. Um, Employers may pay more, but cannot pay less than $7.25. So that's what the federal government says. So the minimum a person in the United States, whether that person is legal or not, has a working permit or not, or legally is legal to work or eligible to work in the US, they cannot make less than $7.25 hours per $25 per hour. The minimum wage in Pennsylvania is the same. Depending on the state, it can be on the state we live in, it can be different. Pennsylvania state follows the same that the federal government states. Then it's important to know when it comes to workers' rights that we cannot be discriminated against for age, sex, or gender. Men and women must be paid equal wage for the same job. Employers cannot refuse to hire or fire an employee because that employee is pregnant. If we are disabled, they cannot discriminate us because of that. Race, or because of our color, or religion, or national origin. So we cannot be discriminated against for any of those reasons. Okay. Then we have workers' compensation. That's another law that is very important in this country. Workers' compensation protects employees who become sick or injured on the job. Employers must provide a workplace that is free of harmful things and situations. And we have also sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or other verbal or physical conduct. The behavior does not have to be of a sexual nature and can include offensive remarks about a person's sex. It is important to remember to document everything if you guys are victims of sexual harassment. That's very important to document everything, meaning to keep proof. You need to have proof. If you feel like you have been a victim of workforce harassment, you can file a claim with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. So yes, and with that, we finished today's video in workshop. Here is the information, my information, if you guys want to contact me via email. So that's my email address and my phone number. To that phone number, you can either call me or you can text me as well. You also have the physical address of Nationality Service Center in case you don't have it. And I want to remind you the employment team services, job placement, job upgrades, job coaching, post-placement, retention, assistance. We also provide services of career planning and free training opportunities. So if you guys have any need any help related to any of those services, so please contact me or contact any of the other members of the Employment Services Department. We are more than glad to help you. Thank you so much for watching this video. It's been more than a pleasure. I know it wasn't such a short video, but it's important information. Like I said at the very beginning of the video, this information gives you, a better understanding about how the work culture in this country works, and also information about how to be successful and how to adapt, more easily to the workplace, to where we work. Okay, so well, thank you so much for watching. It's been a pleasure, and see you guys next time. Bye bye.